The manager leaned across the counter with a mocking smile and said loudly, "I'll pay you double if you have a balance in your account." A few employees nearby chuckled. Customers standing in line glanced over. The man standing in front of the counter looked ordinary, maybe even poor. His jacket was worn, his shoes dusty from the cold streets outside, and he carried no briefcase, no expensive watch, nothing that hinted at power or wealth. But the quiet man didn't react the way people expected. Instead, he simply looked around the small electronics store, studying the shelves, the employees, the messy checkout area. His calm eyes noticed everything. What the manager didn't know was that the man he was mocking owned the entire company. Earlier that morning, the man, Daniel Carter, had decided to visit one of his company's branches in Toronto without telling anyone. Daniel was the CEO of a large retail chain with dozens of stores across Canada. Over the past year, he had been hearing complaints from customers about poor service and rude staff, but every time he asked the regional managers, they insisted everything was fine. Daniel believed the only way to see the truth was to see it himself. So he left his luxury office, put on old clothes, and walked into the store like any regular customer. At first, things seemed normal. But within minutes, he noticed the cashier ignoring an elderly woman who needed help finding a charger. Two employees stood near the back scrolling on their phones. And the store manager, a tall man named Kevin, spent most of his time joking loudly with staff instead of helping customers. When Daniel finally approached the counter to ask about a laptop battery, Kevin barely looked at him. Kevin sighed impatiently. "You sure you can afford that one?" he said, pointing to a price tag. Daniel calmly replied, "I just want to check if it's compatible with my laptop." Kevin rolled his eyes. "People come in here every day wasting our time. If you don't have money, don't act like you're buying expensive electronics." Some customers looked uncomfortable. One young employee behind the counter lowered her head, clearly embarrassed by Kevin's attitude. Daniel remained quiet. Then Kevin laughed and said the sentence that made the entire moment unforgettable. "I'll pay you double if you have a balance." The employees laughed again, but the quiet young cashier, the one who had looked embarrassed earlier, suddenly spoke. "Sir, that's not funny," she said softly. "Everyone deserves respect." Kevin turned sharply toward her. "Emma, stay out of this." The store went silent for a moment. Daniel looked at Emma. She looked nervous, but she didn't take her words back. For the first time, Daniel smiled slightly. He reached into his pocket. Kevin smirked, expecting maybe a few crumpled bills. Instead, Daniel calmly placed a sleek black card on the counter. It wasn't a credit card. It was a corporate executive card with the company's logo and a name engraved beneath it. Daniel Carter. The laughter in the store died instantly. Kevin stared at the card, then at the man in front of him, then back at the card again. His face slowly drained of color. "No, this can't," he muttered. Daniel finally spoke, his voice calm but firm. "You said you'd pay me double if I had a balance," he said. "But that's not what concerns me." The employees were frozen. Customers whispered quietly. Daniel looked around the store again. "What concerns me," he continued, "is that this is how my customers are treated." Kevin's hands began to shake. "Sir, I didn't know." "That's exactly the problem," Daniel said quietly. "You shouldn't need to know who someone is before showing respect." Emma stood silently behind the counter, stunned. Daniel turned toward her. "What's your name?" he asked. "Emma," she said nervously. "You're the only person in this store who stood up for a customer today," Daniel said. Her eyes widened. Then Daniel turned back to Kevin. "You're relieved of your position effective immediately." Kevin looked like the ground had disappeared beneath his feet. "Sir, please, I have a family." Daniel didn't raise his voice. "And every customer who walks through this door has a family too," he replied. Security from the shopping center arrived shortly after, quietly escorting Kevin out of the store. The atmosphere felt completely different now. Daniel then addressed the employees. "This company was built on one simple idea," he said. "Respect every customer. Because the moment we forget that, we lose everything." He paused and looked at Emma again. "Emma, how long have you worked here?" "About 8 months, she said. "Starting tomorrow, you'll be the new assistant manager." Her hands flew to her mouth in shock. "But sir, I've never managed a store before. Daniel smiled. You already showed the most important skill, he said. Character. Customers nearby began quietly clapping. Emma's eyes filled with tears. Daniel picked up the laptop battery he originally asked about and walked toward the door. Before leaving, he turned back one last time. You never know who someone really is, he said gently. So treat everyone like they matter. Because sometimes, the person standing quietly in front of you might just be the one who gave you the opportunity in the first place.